All right, guys, and welcome back to Scareticulous. So today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 and its infamous price tag, but not just the Switch 2, the actual games themselves, namely the $80 price tag of Mario Kart World that has just been announced recently. There's been a lot of controversy over this price, and honestly, it's a big jump. You know, from to go from like $60 to $80 is kind of a big jump. You know, you didn't even give us time to get used to the $70 price tag. Tears of the Kingdom, we're like, oh, okay, I guess $70 justifies it. Now it was like, well, okay, how about $80? It's like, now you're kind of pushing your luck, Nintendo. You know. Anyway, so let's kind of go into this article here from IGN where they interviewed I guess one of the head people who's part of Nintendo. I mean, I might be dead wrong about this. I might end up eating my words. I don't think Nintendo is going to hike the price up anymore. I think they already have their deal in place for the $500 price tag, and I think upping it is just going to piss off fans even more, especially with all the the drop the price stuff that was spammed in their chats recently. I just don't see it happening. I think that would just add insult to injury, and I think people would just give Nintendo a big, F you for if they did that. And yes, there is a bundle that comes with the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, effectively slashing $30 off the price, but it's a limited time offer. Bill Trinan, Nintendo of America's Vice President of Product and Player Experience, Bill Trinan, a recent Switch 2 preview event in New York to ask about Nintendo's pricing strategy for Mario Kart World to find out. He says in his response, Trinan insisted Mario Kart World justifies its price tag and pointed to the upcoming dedicated Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct where fans will learn more about the game and what it has to offer. I would say it's less about the strategy of pricing Mario Kart World. It's more just whenever we look at a given game, we just look at what is the experience and what's the content and what's the value, Trinan said. In terms of Mario Kart World, I would say, obviously they've invested a lot more work and energy into this game compared to other Mario Kart entries. Not only does it have a strong multiplayer component, but it also has a single player component now with the open world. You can basically just go anywhere and do whatever. And right now the open world seems a little like bare. Like you don't really know like what's to do in that open world or where you're gonna go, or like is there's things to unlock, missions, collectibles. We don't know, right? There's a lot that Nintendo, honestly, to be fair, hasn't really showed us in terms of that game yet. So we don't know exactly what the price, is indicating in terms of like the value of that game. We do know it's going to be a lot bigger of a game, right? Because of the open world, that have a whole new mode of the knockout tournament. We have traditional Grand Prix modes. We have lots of stuff to discover. There's different outfits now you can wear in the game. It just seems like a much more bigger, the rosters, like what is it, up to like 50 characters now? You could play as like a Spiny or something like that, and a Fishbone. You could play as like a turtle shell. You could just do play as whatever in that game. Although I'm sure there was more popular characters they could have drawn upon for characters to drive as in the game. Point is, they have chock full this game with everything they could possibly put in there. That's clear. You have the planes you can play as now. I mean, who knows? There might be a whole plane mode that you can do in the game. Maybe every level has like a plane mode to it, a jet ski mode to it. You never know. We don't know exactly like just how big this game is going to be. We've only seen bits and pieces of what Nintendo wants to show us so far. I bet you there's a whole lot of stuff that we're not seeing yet. So he continues and says, Mario Kart World, I think especially as you see from the Nintendo Direct, not to give you any hints or anything, but I did read your article this morning. I think you had mentioned that you didn't find a lot to discover when roaming around. That he's talking about the straightaways where racers are just going down this long stretch where there's just nothing to do, right? He says, so I would say tune into our Mario Kart Direct to see what maybe you'll be able to find out about that. And that would be, I guess, in about 10 days or so. Was it April 17th or something like that? But honestly, this is a game that is so big and so vast, and you will find so many little things in it to discover. So This obviously hints at stuff we haven't seen yet, right? I mean, the stuff that they've shown us in the direct for the Switch 2, and the reveal and the Treehouse games, and even when people were playing the demos themselves, you're only playing the small portion of the game that Nintendo wants you to play. So we don't know exactly just how big this game is. Does that really justify the $80 price tag? I don't know. It depends. Like, just how much is in this game, I think we really have to find that out. And there's still some other secrets remaining that I think as people end up buying and playing the game, they're going to find this to be probably the richest Mario Kart experience they've ever had. Wow. Well, that is a tall order. Those are big words. Bill Trinan, big game talker. Well, I guess there's only time will tell if that will actually be the case. We also asked Trinan about the $80 cost of some of the Nintendo Switch 2 edition games. While there's a $10 upgrade path for existing owners of these games on Switch, and both The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, are available as part of the Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack membership, Nintendo is not offering any sort of discount to newcomers on Switch 2, and that is kind of lame. I mean, if we bought your game on the Switch, you should pretty much give us a free upgrade on the Switch 2. To have to buy a whole new game experience when it's like these are not brand new games, these are old games. Trinan's answer here echoed his Mario Kart World response, pointing to the value Nintendo sees it. See, this is probably their key word that they talk about in all their meetings. Okay, talk about the value of the system, talk about the value of the games, the value. Oh my god, listen, your system is an elaborate iPad with controllers attached to it. Okay, it's not like the second coming of Christ. Well, again, what I would say is that we look at each individual game and we look at the content and the value of that game, and then we say, what is the right price for the value of this entertainment? He said. Is that really true though? I mean, there's lots of games that were on the Switch that I would not say are the same value across the board, right? Like, is Nintendo, are they pricing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild the same as Kirby Star Allies or whatever the hell that game was on the system? I mean, I think they're probably the same price if I'm not mistaken. Are those the same kind of experience, or the same scope of experience of those two games? And there's lots of games you could really apply that to on the system. They're not the same in experience, right? And how do you price an experience? How do you say, well, this is worthy of this price tag because of the experience allows you to see God particles. You can literally talk to Jesus Christ. I mean, how exactly is that pricing? What I would probably counter to some of that is that really what you're looking at is for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, that's the physical price for somebody that has not bought the base game. For somebody who has bought Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, the upgrade packs for those are $9.99. And honestly, it would just be, I think, great of them to offer it for free. If we bought your game clearly and we're buying the Switch 2, clearly we are legacy buyers of yours, right? We've probably been Nintendo buyers for decades now. I think it would be a really great show of faith in the consumer company relationship, that if those upgrades were just offered for free. I just think it's really petty. They're just nickel and diming us now. Even $10, it's really? And if you happen to be a Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack member, both of the Zelda upgrade packs are inclusive with that membership, so there's no additional charge for those. Yeah, so it comes with the Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack, which what is this, $50 extra or something like that? I don't know. It's just asking for, a lot of money. And plus, added to that, all the controllers and cameras and all this other crap that they're asking us to buy. It's just a lot of money. But I think overall, our general approach is really just to focus on what's the content, what's the value, and what's an appropriate price based on that. So I think they're handling the Switch 2 a little bit different than how they handle the Switch. The Switch, it seems like they knew exactly what they were doing, right? And to be fair, they had different leadership back then, right? And I just think, they were very positive. They were very kind of fair with what they were offering back, when the Switch came out. And now it's almost like, I don't know, it just feels like a money grab now. There's a lot of prices being thrown around, and it's almost like we're being punished for being Switch owners, Switch buyers. It's almost like you bought something from someone and they're like, well, if you bought this, well, how about buying all the rest of my crap? And you like find yourself buying so much crap, but it's like, oh my God, I liked the first thing you offered me. That was great. It's like going to a casino, basically. What Trent is saying here is that Nintendo believes its next generation push is worth a price hike when you consider what the video games themselves have to offer, and that's a point echoed by Pierce Harding Rolls. Nintendo has form when it comes to going high for the cost of its games. Nintendo has a bit of a history of pricing games higher than other platforms when coming to the market later than other platforms, in this case PS5 and Xbox Series, he said. I remember back in the day, N64 titles being more than PS1 titles, for example. This is true. This is true. Nintendo does have a history, and a lot of people have circulated this ad from like 1993 or something where a Nintendo game was like $90, and you know, I'm sure it was ludicrous back then, but obviously people bought it, right? And the value of the dollar is worth less than it is now. But people still bought it because they saw the value in those games. I think the difference is, though, that the competition was considerably less steep back then than it is now. That's something that I think these analyses fail to kind of take into consideration, is that back then you had the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and that was pretty much it. You know, you didn't really have much else in terms of competition. Nowadays you got, you know, PS5, you got Xbox Series, you got Steam Decks, you got just all this stuff, indie games coming out of the wazoo. There's so many other options for gaming nowadays that I feel like Nintendo kind of should think about being a little bit more competitive with its pricing. Because otherwise it's like, I feel like people are just gonna be like, well, I mean, I want to play this, but this is a lot cheaper. You know, that's just how consumers work. That's how their mind works, you know, and especially if you're cheap. Like, I'm very cheap. I would love to, you know, buy all this stuff, but at the end of the day, I don't want to spend a fortune on, all these games and the console and the peripherals and all that stuff. So it's definitely a question, I think, in a lot of consumers' minds, of whether it is worth the value, right? Nintendo may see the value in the products, but that doesn't mean that your consumer is going to see the value in the products. And I think the outrage recently is showing that the consumer's idea of value does not match or align with Nintendo's. So they can think whatever the hell they want and have all these lofty ideals of how they see their products. Like, well, we think the experience is worth $1,000. Like, that's great and all, but I ain't paying you no $1,000. You can charge whatever the hell you want. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pay it. But see, the only thing that's going to really matter out of this, the only thing that's going to shake out in the end is, what is Nintendo's bottom line, right? Are people actually going to buy the console? Are they going to buy the games? Is that going to affect sales? That's the only thing that's going to matter in the end. We can talk about it as much as we want to. We're blue in the face online. That is not, it's not going to matter until we actually see what the sales numbers are. And only at that point is Nintendo going to probably reassess things. Or they're going to be motivated to keep going and stay the course, right? They may think, well, they bought it at $80. Let's just keep charging them $80, right? Why not? Hell, let's charge them $90. You know, and also, anyone who's studied like economics and how people mentally work when it comes to pricing, is sometimes when you jack up the price of something that people consider to be valuable, right? If there is a value that the consumer sees, sometimes jacking the price up doesn't matter. Like, you can keep jacking the price up an exorbitant amount of money and still make money. Up to a point. There is a ceiling to that, obviously. You can't charge $150 a game. At that point, you're going to see sales dips, right? But they could probably end up charging $100 and people will still buy the game. Now, probably not right now. I think there would be some kind of riot if that happened now. They'd have to ease us into it a little bit. But eventually, they could end up charging $100 and people will still buy it at that point. Because sometimes in people's brains, they see a higher price as something more valuable, something more rare, something that's in short supply, and that they need it, right? They need it more because of that, right? It gives it a scarcity just by the price point alone. It's like, wow, that's an expensive game. It must be really valuable. I might need to get that. That's sometimes how customers think as well. So the customer mindset may surprise you sometimes. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. Do you think Nintendo justified the price point of $80 per, for Mario Kart World? Are you more used to the price point now? I mean, I feel like we've all had time to really think about it and assess if it's worth it to us. Each of us has decided whether $80 Mario Kart World is worth it. Plus, there's the bundle to consider. You will get $30 knocked off the price, so that does sweeten the deal. But that's what Nintendo's also probably counting on, right? And it's only a digital download that comes with the console. You're not getting a physical game. So it's not like you can resell that game after you're done with it. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you going to want to resell that game? I mean, obviously, you're going to play the hell out of that. And then maybe down the line, you'll be able to get Mario Kart World, a physical edition for like $20, but only much later in the future, right? It's just one of those things like, is it worth the investment to you? Let me know in the comments below. Please leave me a thumbs up, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.